This conference
Simi?
will now be recorded.
Thank you, Simi. It's 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Um, Before I forget, as you just heard me say, uh, tonight's meeting is not being live broadcast, but it is being recorded so that anybody, residents can watch it on the town's website after this. So just so that everybody's aware, you are being recorded. So second item, first off, welcome everybody. Committee of Adjustment meeting. This is session 06 of 2024. Thursday, September 26th at 7 o'clock we started here. Second item, emergency exits. In the unlikely event that we have to vacate this room, the emergency exits are behind you and over here to your left. Committee members, declarations of pecuniary interest. Any now or at any time during the meeting, you can declare those. Next item is approval of the agenda. I do want to add one other item to this. So I'll move to add it after unfinished business, new business. Do I have someone seconding that? Fred?
Excuse me, so are you amending the agenda
Yeah,
with an item? So you already have so you're trying to add other business to the agenda?
that's right.
So you have new business
I'm sorry,
already.
I'm sorry. Well, we can call it whatever we want. We got unfinished business, other business, new business. I don't care what it's called.
So through to you, Bob, you have new business correspondence.
Sorry, that would be,
And-
Mike, thank you. You've corrected me.
Yeah.
Then after unfinished business, other business.
So no. So we're sticking with the council protocol, which is new business, correspondence, additions to the agenda. So if you're asking your committee members tonight to add an item to the agenda,
Yes.
then you have to get them to approve that, and we can add an item 3 under new business or additions to the agenda.
I want to do
Right.
this after, okay, well, we can do this after we can. So I'm calling it other business.
I get it, and understand that you spoke to the planning technician with respect to this before the meeting. But the clerk and I are trying to keep the agenda in the same form that council utilizes. And you have a section on your current agenda in front of you that says additions to the agenda. So if you would like to add something, the members should vote to allow it to add. And usually those are time-sensitive matters that you want to get on tonight. Because the public hasn't been prepared to talk to an addition to the agenda. So usually they're time-sensitive matters that you add, and you already have your other business. It's called additions to the agenda. Fair?
No, you've got me really confused, and I don't want to bog this meeting down with
Yep.
those things. So
So
I do have some other things that I want to talk about tonight.
Okay,
and they're
so
not on this agenda.
So you should work through your members to see if if they're in agreement to add the other business that you want to talk about, which would come as item 3
Okay,
under new business
okay,
correspondence additions to the agenda.
okay.
Yeah, so you got a section there. I know what you're getting at, Bob.
Yes,
You have a section there already, additions to the agenda.
okay.
But those can't be brought up at the end of the meeting.
No,
We have to modify the agenda right now, and the members would vote to amend the agenda.
well, that's what I'm
Good.
asking them to do. So,
So you would put on the table what you would like to add. You'd need a seconder, and then all in favor.
you want something specific?
Yes.
Okay, then I would like to add item role of staff regarding the Committee of Adjustment.
And a seconder.
That's-
Is that okay with the committee then?
Anybody second that? Thank you. Everybody okay? Thank you. That's approved. So we have added that.
So now
Role
we
of
would
staff.
do item number 4. Have you done the declarations of pecuniary
Yes.
interest?
Yeah.
So item number 4 would be approval of the agenda as amended.
As amended.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have someone to move that we, Corinne, moved by Corinne, seconded by Dave Carbert. No objections to that? Thank you. Number 5, approval of the minutes of our last session, 05 of 2024. Any questions, comments, corrections? If not, can somebody move to approve them? Please, moved by Corinne, seconded by Dave Carbert. Any objections? Seeing none. Public question period. So as is the style at all of our meetings, we have a public question period. Now, let me say this. When we get into the specific applications here, the audience will have an opportunity to ask questions, make comments on those specific applications. So if you've got specific ones about either of the two applications here, you can hold them until then. If there's any other questions, this is the time. And seeing none, we're going to move on to our first application here. So I'm going to read this for the benefit of people that may be listening to it and won't see the words. So this is a consent application for severance. 287199 10 Side Road of Mono, and this is file B03-24. I'm going to read all of this. Consent application to sever the creation of a new lot with an area of 1.86 hectares, that's 4.6 acres, comprising a detached residence, chalet, and garage from the subject property. The retained area of 8.09 hectares or 20 acres will be preserved and protected as part of the Bruce Trail Conservation Corridor. The property is designated almost entirely escarpment natural with some escarpment protection under the Niagara Escarpment Plan, the NEP. So that is the introduction to that. I've introduced the application. Next thing, Deborah Alexander, we have a report from planning consultant here. Deborah, do you have anything more to add to this? Or can we move on to having the applicant speak to it?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, nothing further. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Deborah. With that, then I'm going to ask Anton from the Bruce Trail Conservancy to come up and talk to us about the application. Anton, you remember to turn the mic on, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Introduce yourself also, because
Yes.
I didn't do a very good job.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Anton Diamond. I work for the Bruce Trail Conservancy and I'm agent for this application. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to discuss our proposal and also the conditions. After reviewing the conditions, we respectfully ask for a friendly amendment to condition 2, specifically to remove reference to comments written in June. The discussions with Public Works have continued to evolve, and the comments from summer might not capture all the things that we need to do. So we have we've offered some language. I've just crafted some if you're amenable to hearing that, and it's just very simple that the submission to the Secretary Treasurer of written provides submission of the Secretary Treasurer of written confirmation from the Director of Public Works that Public Work is satisfied with the requirement related to the severed and retained lots. So the only portion is just to remove the reference to the June letter. So I'll leave that
Thank
then.
you.
We also respectfully ask for condition 4 to be removed on the basis that a parkland levy should not apply when parkland is being created. Mr. Chair, to date, the town has taken more than $113,000 from us, including application fees, including this one, more than $30,000 in fees to secure conservation land with a public trail in your town. We didn't appeal the parkland levy condition for the previous applications during the appeal period because we were given strong indications that the condition was a misstep. Council thought this and amended the bylaw to provide the ability for you to exempt these types of applications. The one vote against the amendment was out of concern for your fiscal constraints. As a charity, we know how it feels to scrape the barrel and to have to work harder than you could ever imagine to keep things going. But addressing your challenges in this way is not the answer. You're hurting us. We are serving the public interest. We bring value to your town and residents at no cost to you. And this campaign against us is severely impairing our efforts. The Bruce Trail Conservancy is a well-respected charity that is focused on conserving a natural corridor containing the Bruce Trail. The Niagara Escarpment Plan recognizes the BTC as a public body that owns and manages these lands in public interest. The Bruce Trail is used by local residents and their families, by dog walkers, hikers, school groups, birders, photographers, and the like. It is free. It is a free amenity to the town. It is in your official plan, and it is posted on your website as an enjoyable way for residents to experience their hometown and also attract visitors to the area and those tourist dollars. More importantly, it provides a natural corridor and protected habitat for wildlife whose numbers are diminishing by the year. The parkland levy is reserved for when development or redevelopment of property is proposed, development that results in intensification and increased demands on municipal services. It's intended to help you provide the parks, the green space, and the trails for the additional residents. There are exceptions for not-for-profits who are creating housing and for development of affordable housing. It doesn't explicitly exempt cases where the severance creates parkland, because exemption should be obvious. Unfortunately, the Planning Act technically defines a severance as development, because as the logic goes, why else would you sever land unless you plan to develop something on it? Severing land for conservation and trail purposes was never imagined. To date, we've been getting by with the current definition, but given this experience, it seems an amendment to the Planning Act is required. To spell it out clearly, as your council did, that conservation land is parkland and should be exempt. The Bruce Trail and the conservation land that surrounds it is a free asset to you, but it is not free to secure or manage. We must fundraise millions of dollars to acquire and manage these lands and trail. The Bruce Trail is 900 kilometers long and passes through a natural corridor comprising thousands of acres. I know that one of your more vocal residents and a council member saw dollar signs when they read through our financials that are available online. We're a very transparent organization. And they thought that the town should have some of it, some of our money. But it's important to know that it takes literally millions of dollars to do what we do, to acquire the land for the corridor and manage its habitats and the trail. Every dollar is raised through constant year-round effort. We typically don't secure the corridor this way, that is by buying the entire property and selling off the house to recoup funds. Typically, we would acquire only the land we need from an individual landowner. We call them partial takings. In those cases, we enter into a purchase and sale agreement with the landowner, apply to the town for a conservation severance, survey the area, and then close, leaving that landowner with a house and only on fewer acres. It's exactly what we're doing here, except that we are the landowner. About 42 kilometers of trail passes through the town of Mono. About half of it is secured, mainly through partial takings. You've approved about 8 of them since 2013. The Van Stralen brothers sold us a bit of land. Mr. Galbraith and his brother sold us a bit of land, as did Mrs. Wilson, Mr. Shute, the Strucks. These are just a few of the landowners who were gracious to sell us a portion of their property. Not one of these applications was subject to a parkland levy. To do so would be unreasonable. It would be unreasonable for us to pay the landowner market value for their land and then to have to appraise their house in order for us to pay the town 5% of its value as well. There is this idea circulating that we are making money from these transactions, from buying the entire property and severing and selling off the house, and it couldn't be further from the truth. There are significant upfront costs that we do not recuperate. It is not an ideal way to conserve the corridor, but in some cases, it's what we need to do. You have already taken over $113,000 for the 2 projects that we've done so far. If you choose not to exclude condition 4, we will have no option but to appeal at the OLT, as it is not only wrong, but it is unsustainable. The OLT is a very time-consuming and costly process. I imagine that it will cost the town more than the value of the levy to defend their decision. Given our well-considered legal opinion and case law that is outlined in the letter that you received this afternoon, we will win. The OLT process will be a waste of resources, especially given that Council was never in favour of applying this condition to these types of applications to start with. We are an asset to the town, one that you should leverage. The value we bring far exceeds what you can extract from us through these one-time levies. For your interest, the Township of Mulmer will be releasing a video about their township in a week or so. It was funded by the Ontario government through the Rural Economic Development Programme. It will be on their website. I invite you to watch it. From what I've seen so far, it's an inspiring video that promotes the beauty of the area and as a destination for healthy, sustainable recreation. It highlights the Bruce Trail. It's an extremely good example of how you can leverage our work. That is where the energy should go. So I know that each one of you take your role as a committee member very, very seriously. And I know that your vote must be unbiased and based on policy, not personally motivated. I say this because these applications have generated strong feelings in a few people. If you are against removing the parkland levy, it would mean a great deal if you could explain to me why before you go into committee, so that I can understand fully what it is, so I can understand it from the other side of the argument. And also to ask questions. If you insist on applying the levy, then I also respectfully ask that you amend the condition so that it applies to the new lot that we are creating, the conservation lot, rather than the existing lot with the house. The residential lot currently exists. We are not creating a new residential lot as described by your planner. We are creating a conservation lot. It isn't new, the house lot. If the levy is to be the condition, then it should apply to the new lot, labelled the retained land on the map. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Anton. Appreciate that. This is the time when members of the audience can come up and make comments, ask questions, and that. So I invite you to come up. Please turn the mic on. We'll need your name and address, please. And then you can ask questions, make comments for or against. So, yes, sir, please. Doesn't matter. Name and address, please. No, push the button. Now it's on. Thank you.
My name is Ken Nadlin. I live at 287-177 Tenside Road in Mono. I have 2 points. One is that the severed lots, one will be under 5 acres. In the town's bylaws, that says it should only have 1 dwelling unit. As it sits, the generously named chalet is a single family dwelling. That's 2 family dwelling units, and the garage from the street view appears to also be habitable. I am for this. I just want to know that this is setting a precedent that's going to allow other residents to create second single-family dwellings or accessory dwelling units on their property. If you vote for this, you're setting this legal precedent. That's my comment. Second comment is, I understand that the levy fees and fees are taken from the Bruce Trail. My taxes are taken from me unwillingly. I pay them, and they go into the public good for the town of Mono, doing various things from our roads to this very building. And I just want that considered as well, that they're not wasted funds. They fund things that benefit all of us in Mono, as will the Bruce Trail, which I also love and do respect.
Sorry, just so that I'm clear, are you suggesting that the parkland levy fees that are taken are applied to everything? Because
Well, no, I'm just saying that fees taken are not wasted. They go into the government coffers and they're used for the benefit of taxpayers.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to get to this later, but we might as well address this issue right now. No, you're okay, Ken.
Okay.
Thank you. We might as well address this issue right now because I think that there was a confusion about how parkland levy fees can be used, and some people were of the impression that they could go into general revenues and that. And so my question to Mike or Fred, I just want it clarified right up front here. The parkland levy fees must be used for only parkland and recreation. Can you please confirm that and clarify that?
You are correct.
Okay, so that's clear. Only for parkland and recreation uses.
Okay, also
Yeah,
to the benefit of residents of Mona.
agreed. But I wanted to make that clear right up front. I'm not disagreeing with you,
Thank
but
you
I
for
want
the
to clarify
clarification.
for everybody here. So
Yes,
very
thank you.
good. Thank you, Ken. Yes, sir. Next. Yeah, please come on up. Thank you. Jamie, how are you?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Good to be on this side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good to see there's a couple of continuity members here.
Yes. Yeah. So for
I'm
the
Jamie Richards, and I live on Fifth Line, Mono 873-393. The Bruce Trail is obviously runs near our house, and I'm an avid hiker, so I guess I have a conflict of interest. But I think there's 3 points I want to make. One, I think it is a bit counterintuitive to ask a nonprofit that's creating parkland for parkland funds. So, and that's been addressed by the initial presentation. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. But secondly, I think when you dive down a little bit deeper, I think there's a couple things that show up. One is the type of recreation that the Bruce Trail provides compared to, say, our typical parkland, which would be perhaps a tennis court, playgrounds, a different type of use. And so what's beautiful is that this organization is providing a very unique use that's really not the wheelhouse of the town. The town doesn't build a trail per se. It's not a trail building recreational focus, but this is what they do. So you want to encourage them to do that. And obviously other development that comes in, new development, subdivisions, industrial development, that's where the fee, and that's going to build the playground sets. That's going to take care of the tennis courts, that type of recreation. And people understand that. So I think it's a way to strategically take advantage of an organization that's doing something really good that's not in your wheelhouse. And then I think the third thing is, I think it was mentioned actually, what MoMA is trying to leverage what they have. And I just came back from a month-long walk in Wales along the English-Wales border. It was a trail. It was a national trail. I spent a lot of money. There was all sorts of businesses that were set up to move our luggage day after day. There were inns and hotels and restaurants which we stopped at. The Bruce Trail in terms of World Trail development, as wonderful as it is, it's this huge tourism economic development engine that nobody's thought about how to actually leverage. It's sitting here in our backyard. So this is an economic development issue too. And so I think those three things, you look at economic development, you look at the idea that this is a niche a recreational program. They build linear trails, wildlife corridors that aren't playgrounds, and let them do it. That's what they're good at. And then finally, I think it's just a counterintuitive when you've got an organization that's a nonprofit that's working in your favor, that's working with you in a sense. Take advantage of it. Just makes sense.
Thank you, Jamie. Yes, sir. Sorry, turn the mic on, please, and the name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Dave Daw, 754-416 Mono Center Road, just 2K down the road here. I'm actually a volunteer at Bruce Trail now, just a newly minted one. But what I want to speak about is in support of a number of the town's commitments to the environment and climate change. So I went to the website and I pulled off some relevant points that I think relate to the Bruce Trail, because the Bruce Trail isn't just a trail, it's a nature conservancy. Right down across the road from where I live, they purchased that 123 acres. So the trail goes through a little piece of that. The rest of it is conserved nature land. So the town, as a community, we say that we're committed to preserving the natural heritage bequeathed to us by earlier generations, and has established an overriding goal of ensuring that our local environment and rural character are protected, which is entrenched in our policies. That's a great statement. I love it, and I support that. In the climate action section of our documents on the website, we say that the path forward in this is municipally led and community driven, and that through a collaboration with a wide range of community partners is the key to efficiency and equity. So what we're saying is we need to collaborate with community partners, especially in things that we don't do ourselves. We don't have the resources to do what the Bruce Trail is doing. We don't have the resources to buy all this land and then pile in the staff that's needed to maintain it, pick up the trash. Right now, what's going on, I don't know about all the other properties. I'm just familiar with this one. And this summer we planted 4,000 trees on there to no cost to the town. 4,000 trees went in all by volunteer labor with the help of the NVCA, the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority. So the potential partners that we say on our website, potential partners on our climate initiatives could include, and has a number of them, and one is nonprofit organizations, that we could partner with those. We're actually saying that that's an important thing for us to do. We should be doing it. And it also says, moving towards a GHG net zero future is a monumental task. It's also an enormous opportunity to tap into the numerous co-benefits of climate action. A dynamic community that embraces this supports and enhances local agriculture, grows sustainable and vibrant urban centers, and protects land, water, air, and stimulates local economies, creates healthy and equitable neighborhoods, and is resilient in the face of climate change. Those are our words, the words of Mono. So right now, what we're dealing with is, we're dealing with one of our potential partners. So the Bruce Trail is one of those partners that we're talking about in this document that we need to embrace, that we need to pull in with us, because it's something that we don't do. We don't do it well. We don't have the resources to do it. We're not going to raise the taxes so we could buy land and do what the Bruce Trail is doing. It's doing the things that we value and that we need. The things that we say in our documents, things that we say are important and we should be doing. By imposing a levy and asking the Bruce Trail to pay us back money is impeding that. So what we say is that all these things are important. We need to be supporting the environment. We need to create better better biodiversity. We need to protect the land and water, the things that the Bruce Trail is doing. And then our actions, though, are saying, those are important. But what's more important is that we impede this organization and we prevent some of their actions by taking some of their resources. So what we're actually saying is what we believe is that it's important for us to impede the Bruce Trail because our actions say that. That's not written anywhere, and maybe it should be, that we think it's important enough for us to prevent or to impede the Bruce Trail's operations here in order to do whatever else we think is important. So on one hand, we're saying something's really important, and our actions are then saying, well, actually not really. Climate change, we'll put that aside for now. We'll deal with it later. We'll kick it down the road. I don't know how we would explain this to a grade 4 class that asks you this question. So I'm not suggesting anything radical. I'm not suggesting anything anything big change that needs to be put into action. It's just that for us to stay committed to what we think is important, our actions need to say, those are not just words. This is what is important to us. So what I'm asking is that we just repeal that notion of asking money back from the Bruce Trail and let it do its work so that we could all benefit for it.
Very good. Thank you, Dave. Elaine stood up there, so, and you can be next. Okay, Elaine, we know you, but for the record,
Yes.
please.
Elaine Kehoe, 388193 Mono Center Road. Several times this evening, the Bruce Trail was referred to as a charity. Google defines the concept of charity as a humanitarian act. It involves giving money, goods, or time and effort to those in need. It is done without the expectation of expecting something in return. Giving money or food to poor people is an example of charity. We have the Bruce Trail may well be, or they want to consider themselves a charity. They are in fact a corporation who's amassing properties throughout Ontario, and the only concern is Mona for me. They have just under 800 acres. They have severed properties, which severances would not have been given to a layperson or a resident of this area under any of the circumstances if they weren't the Bruce Trail. They've asked the consideration that they're a nonprofit. I would ask you to look at the cost that they have expended in purchasing these properties. This is not a mom and pop operation. This is not a charity. It's a corporation who is organized and who intends to reserve the balance of the land for a use that we still do not know. Yes, I love the Bruce Trail. I walk it every day. I enjoy it, and I think they do a fine job. My concern is what are they going to do with the balance of the land after the tiny strip is put into the Bruce Trail Association and for our walking paths. And if we do not collect the levy at this time, we are never going to get a levy later. Once you set a precedent, if you choose to set a precedent on this one, everyone and every piece of land will come forward and you will be expected. Nor do I think they have the right to threaten us with a lawsuit and say we will lose. We are the residents and we own this land here. They have no right to tell us you're going to lose. They may have the money and we may not have the money, but we will have something at the end of the day, self-respect and standing up for something that we believe in. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Yes, sir. In the front row, please.
I think this is already on. Yes.
Yes, it is. Yeah. When the red light's on, you're on.
Good.
Yep.
So I'm Dave Mole. I live at 933-445 Airport Road. I'm a member of the Bruce Trail Conservancy, and I've been a volunteer for that organization since 1984. That's 40 years. The Bruce Trail Conservancy acquired its first parcel of land in Mono in 1995. Since then, the BTC has acquired 18 more properties in the town of Mono. Including the one that is the subject of this application, those properties total 721 acres of conservation land, which is open to the public at no cost. No cost to the public, no cost to the taxpayers of Mono. Out of those 19 parcels, 12 of them were created by way of a severance that was approved by this committee, the town's Committee of Adjustment. In the first 10 of those severances, there was no requirement to make a parkland dedication, nor to pay cash in lieu of a parkland dedication. It seems that back in the past, the town recognized that the BTC land was essentially parkland. Then suddenly in 2024, things changed. In 2 consent applications dealt with earlier this year, the town demanded payment of cash in lieu of parkland in the amount of 5% of the value of the land. Now in this current application, we're seeing the same extortionary demand. What happened? Why the change in the town's approach? If the recommendation before you today is adopted, then the BTC will have paid well in excess of $200,000 to the town this year alone. All the property acquired by the BTC in Mono is within the Niagara Escarpment Plan area. As Elaine mentioned, under normal circumstances, no severances would be permitted on this land in the NEC plan area. It is only because the BTC is considered to be a public body that it is allowed to obtain a severance for conservation purposes. That's in the Niagara Escarpment Plan. All land acquired by the BTC becomes part of the Niagara Escarpment Parks and Open Space System. The acronym for that is NEPOS. Here's what the Niagara Escarpment Commission says about NEPOS on its website. I'm quoting from the NEC's website. The Niagara Escarpment Parks and Open Space System, NEPOS, consists of more than 163 parks and open spaces on public land owned and or managed by conservation authorities, municipalities, Ontario Parks, Royal Botanical Gardens, the Bruce Trail Conservancy, Ontario Heritage Trust, Parks Canada, and other conservation organizations capable of managing land in the public interest. I'm still quoting their website. NEPOS strives to protect the escarpment's significant natural and cultural heritage resources while providing opportunities for compatible recreation and development. The Bruce Trail is the common linkage connecting most of the parks and open spaces, end quote. To me, this is a compelling argument that the province of Ontario and the Niagara Escarpment Commission consider the BTC-owned lands to be essentially parkland. Why can't the town of Mono recognize this too?
Thank you, Dave. Yes, in the front row, please. I'm going to, we've heard a lot of things. I'm going to ask people to keep their comments as brief as possible. If what you're going to say supports some of the things we've already heard, you know what I'm saying. But I'm not trying to tell people, there should be a button at the front there. There you go.
Okay.
So you know what I'm saying, if we can
I'll
keep
try
our
to keep
comments brief.
I'll keep it short.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
My-
Name and.
My name is
address.
Sally Cohen. I live at 93344.
Sorry,
My
Ally.
name is Sally.
Sally. Thank you,
Cohen.
Sally.
I live at 933445 Airport Road in Mono. I've owned property in Mono for 31 years. I'm also a Bruce Trail member. During my 30 years in Mono, I've hiked the Bruce Trail regularly because it goes through the back of my property. In fact, my husband and I donated 11 acres of our property so the Bruce Trail could be protected forever. I have hiked and enjoyed the many beautiful properties purchased by the Bruce Trail in Mono over the years. The Bruce Trail passes through these properties and allows the public to access them. I am very concerned about the recent action imposed by the town of Mono to collect a 5% levy in lieu of parkland when a charity like the Bruce Trail Conservancy buys a property and then severs off a piece to be resold. The Bruce Trail regularly buys a property which often has a house on it and severs off the buildings to recover funds to pay for the whole property. This is allowed under the Niagara Escarpment Plan and is a regular practice done along the 900 kilometers of Bruce Trail, which passes through many, many different municipalities. I have never heard of any other municipality charging any levies for the value of the severances done by the Bruce Trail. In fact, I consider most of the properties in Mono owned by the Bruce Trail to be public parks, since anyone can access them. So if they are already parks, why charge a levy? One of the things I do as a volunteer with the Bruce Trail Club here in Mono is to help raise money. For over 20 years, my husband and I have grown and sold Christmas trees on our property in Mono to raise money for the Bruce Trail Conservancy. We have raised close to $100,000. Lately, I feel that all of my efforts to raise funds to help the Bruce Trail are now going to pay the 5% levy in lieu of park fees that the town of Mono has already demanded on 2 recent severances and wants to collect on a 3rd. I'm very disappointed in the town of Mono and hope that it will stop charging a charity, such as the Bruce Trail Conservancy, a 5% levy on the value of the severance. The Bruce Trail Conservancy is creating green space in Mono, which is being protected for future generations, and creating park space where people can hike and enjoy nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Bill, please. Sorry, and you'll be next. Yeah, Bill? At your peril, Bill.
Bill Monroe, Bayberry Road, Mono. First, I'd like to point out that this levy thing has not just been brought here. The bylaw was made in 2004 by Dave Baldwin and Keith McNanley and John Creelman. He was mayor up until February of that year. So it's not a new thing. What they did it for was their own purposes. I came upon something. If they want to, the Bruce Trail wants to get rid of this levy, buy land that doesn't have houses on it. Then we won't have this talk at all. They can just have their land, make their trails, and that'd be it. But the bylaw was there. We need the money, and it's as simple as that. And to finish up, Mr. Chairman, I know you're not interested in the budget of this town. You made it quite clear the last time I was speaking. But we just found out a report last council meeting. We've got to find $600,000 a year extra for the roads. So perhaps this would help. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Yes, please. If you push the button there, please. Thank you. Name and address, please.
My name is Kathy Miller, and I live at the other dead end, which is 714044 First Line, Mono. So I'm just kitty corner to the other dead end. Now, I only have 3 questions because they're way over me. Okay. What I basically wanted to know, that if there is a parking lot going in, so there'd be access to this here park that they want. Sooner or later, the Bruce Trail will possibly put in a driveway, not a driveway, but a parking lot.
Anton, why don't you come up here and turn this one on, since we're now into some questions, and after the audience talks, then we're going to do it. So you might as well stay there. So Anton can answer that question.
There's no parking expected. That's right.
Okay.
Okay,
And I fail to understand why the Bruce Trail had to buy this property. Since it's all under the protection of the Niagara Escarpment, you can't do anything anyways. It's in the green area. I'm in the brown. And then there's the yellow. So you have so many restrictions. I fail to understand why the Bruce Trail had to buy that property.
So we have a mandate to conserve the conservation corridor
But it's preserved by the Niagara Escarpment. Nobody can do anything down there.
for the optimum route of the Bruce Trail. That is the provincial
No,
goal.
that's your agenda. But that point is, I don't see why you spent the money on the property when it's all controlled by the Niagara Escarpment. If nothing is going on in there, like you're not going to put a parking lot in, they're not going to do anything. The land is natural. Why did you need to buy it?
So that we can bring it into our care. It's privately owned. It was privately
You want
owned.
to put it into the Bruce Trail, but it's already part of the Niagara Escarpment.
I understand.
And it's all protected.
but Kathy, I think Anton's answered your question.
Okay, third one is, that property is the same as my property, all right? Well, almost. If they get a severance, why couldn't I get a severance? I mean, basically, and you and I both know the Niagara Escarpment is not going to give me a severance. Mono Township isn't going to give me a severance. I've been on that property before the Niagara Escarpment came in. So basically, the Niagara Escarpment basically said, you can own it, you can pay for it, but we control it. So I fail to see why, if I can't get a severance, why would they be allowed to get a severance? Only because of the Bruce Trail?
Okay, I'm on that question, I'm going to defer to staff here if you have an answer to that, or do we need?
First of all, I would like to say that I figure in a free country, we all should be treated equally. In other words, if I don't get a severance, they don't get a severance, I don't get a severance. But if they get a severance, I should be able to get a severance.
But
It's equal.
Kathy, give us a second here. I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, I don't want to say the government has rights over everybody else, because basically, indirectly, we're paying the Niagara Escarpment salary, we're paying part of the Bruce Trail salary. I figure if they get a severance, I get a severance. Not that I want one. That's beside the point.
Okay, Mike, is there an answer to that question?
So I'll take a stab at this, Chair.
Thank you.
And hopefully Deborah will step in. But my understanding is that the province deems these type of severance for conservation purposes as okay, so as approvable. So your severance that you'd be asking for would be for a new residential lot?
Okay.
So it's because this, there's no frontage on this lot. There's 10 meters of frontage, which will not satisfy any.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear, can't hear. You.
There's no frontage on this lot that would satisfy any of the town of Mono current zoning bylaws. So it's not a buildable lot, and it's being severed for conservation purposes, which I believe falls inside of the provincial policy statement of the government. So this is
Basically, the government has one set of rules, and the average working person has another set of rules.
Well, that's probably correct, but and I don't mean to be flippant, but unfortunately, that's the case for a lot of things that we deal with. But Mike has given you a reason, is that this severance, because it's for conservation. That's the difference. Did I hear that correct, Mike?
But they bought the property as a conservation. Then the house stays with the land.
Not necessarily. Mike? I don't know the answer to that, I should say.
So sort of you're on the right track there. They bought the property and then severed a conservation piece, and they're leaving a property in residential.
Yes, but what I look at it is they're getting, if they sever that house, what they're doing is they're getting the back 20 acres for basically no cost because they're going to get the cost back from the house. The house and the land, you separate them, the house is going to sell for, we'll say just $1 million, which you might have paid $1 million for. So you sever the house and the lot, you're going to get that back, and then you got the 20 acres free.
Okay, let's stop here. Our planning consultant, Deborah Alexander, is online there. Deborah, if you can unmute yourself, if you can clarify this for us, please, Deborah.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the Mono official plan, which does allow the creation of a new lot on the Niagara Escarpment. Permitted uses in the natural area and escarpment protection area include existing uses, existing single dwellings. It also goes on to state that the creation of a new lot may be permitted through acquisition by a public body, provided no new building lot is created. And that's the catch. The new lot that's created, the conservation lands at the back, must not be a building lot, and they are not.
Does that make sense?
No, I didn't understand, but that's
So
okay.
it's about
mean, there's not
not
much-
creating
I
a
read-
building lot. Deborah, did I get that correct? Sorry, we couldn't, your sound was a little low.
Sorry, yes, you did.
Thank you.
So she's,
So it's not creating a building lot.
no.
That's the difference. Am I correct, Deborah?
You are
Yes,
correct.
thank you. That's the difference, Kathy.
I just oppose it simply because it's all controlled by the Niagara Escarpment,
Okay,
and that's it. I don't see why a separate body has to go in. They had no
Yeah.
problems coming over. And like I said, we had the land before
Yeah.
the
Okay.
escarpment came in, and I have no problems with it. We've been down to the
Okay.
falls so often, and we've enjoyed the falls. But that doesn't mean I want half of Toronto to coming up here to do it.
okay. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Comments? Mark, please. For the record.
Yes,
name.
sir. Good evening, everybody. Mark Darby, 713-189, First Line Mono, 34 years here. So good evening to the Committee of Adjustment and everyone. I'm going to start by saying I do not think that Mono should be requiring any monies in lieu of parkland from the Bruce Trail because I believe Mono is already being gifted millions of dollars worth of parkland in lieu of parkland. So I don't think we should get that money. Now, I'm just going to, in one sentence, I agree with a lot of the things that the other people that have spoken here, so I'm not going to rehash it, but
Thank you, Mark.
just for the record, I would like to say that I acknowledge that Mono, our town has made some very painful money cuts from the budget lately. So to avoid more cuts, we really should be thanking the Bruce Trail staff and management for these precious land gifts that will serve Mono residents in perpetuity because we don't have to make any more budget cuts to acquire these lands. And I'm just going to go off on a little bit of a related subject, and it's about further thought on Mono taxpayers' dollars and what we get for them.
Okay, but Mark, I really would like to keep this discussion focused on this,
Bruce
if
Trail
you know
will
what
be-
I'm saying.
Bruce Trail is in my next
Okay,
4 words.
thank you, Mark. You know what I'm saying.
Yes, I
Because
do,
we-
sir.
We've had a lot of comments about it so
Yeah.
far in that, and I do appreciate we want to hear what your
Yeah,
opinion is.
because this is going to be something that hasn't been
Okay, thank you.
spoken. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So just about taxpayers' dollars and what we get for them. The Bruce Trail continuously gives Mono access to millions of dollars worth of beautiful natural property and land that attracts wildlife for free. And on the other hand, the OASS Fairgrounds and CVC are doing the opposite. So in these tough budget times, Mono taxpayers are actually paying millions of dollars in subsidies to the OASS Fairgrounds and CVC so they can make money by having noise and air pollution concert and demolition derbies pound into our conservation areas that destroy our beautiful land and scare away wildlife. So to stop this environmental destruction, scaring away wildlife, Mono should take the appropriate steps to increase our parkland through BTC and attract wildlife. And I'm submitting, just to wrap it up here, that both those goals could be realized by stopping all funding, like Mono taxpayer funding to the OASS Fairgrounds and CVC who destroy the land and scare away animals and start redirecting those monies to the Bruce Trail.
Mark,
Thank
thank you, and thanks for keeping things brief. Keep those thoughts for the council meeting tomorrow. Yeah, very good. Thank you, Mark. Anyone else with any different comments, thoughts, questions? Okay, thank you, everyone. Seeing none, now it is the chance for the committee members to do the same thing, questions and comments. Anton, why don't you come up and sit here, please, because there may be some. I'm going to start with Eric Forney here on my left. Eric, turn your mic on, please. Thank you.
Anton, I did not have the list of conditions in front of me when you spoke to condition number 2. What words were you requesting be struck from that paragraph?
Just the part that refers to the comments from Public Works dated from June 2024.
So it will just, you're suggesting that it just read submission to the Secretary Treasurer of written confirmation from the Director of Public Works.
That Public Works is satisfied with requirements related to the severed and retained lots. The buck will stop with Public Works. We just don't want it to be linked back to comments that might not be fully
Mike, do you have
articulated.
any comments on
Oh,
that?
sorry, if you don't speak in there, it won't be recorded. Sorry, Eric. Thank you.
Do you have any comments on that suggested change?
So I have no concerns with that. What I do have is a small update for the committee that the Bruce Trail has been working with Public Works since the report was submitted as comments and are ironing out the conditions that were in the letter and the comments that were suggested by Antoine. Would be an appropriate friendly amendment to the conditions in front of the committee.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Dave, why don't you turn on your mic, please? Questions, comments?
Not comments, we're just doing questions.
Thank you. Yes.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Corinne, please.
Hi, Anton.
Hi.
I have a couple of questions. I was curious, when was this property purchased?
2023, so just last year.
Okay, so I guess I would defer to staff with regards to, do we not usually require a minor variance for properties not owned for 5 years, or does that not apply?
It doesn't apply. We don't hold land it would be inappropriate for us to hold land for the sake of holding land. It's a vacant house right now. It's a house that should be lived in. It should be sold and turned out into the market because we have a housing crisis and currently we can't sell it because it's stuck to the rest of the conservation land. So for us to hold on to it, I believe the bylaw is referring to individuals who buy and quickly flip properties.
And that's what I'm curious, if this property would fall, because it's conservancy, it would fall outside of the bylaw with regards to holding the land for 5 years before a severance was granted, or?
Yeah, we had this one, was triggered with one of our earlier applications, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair.
You don't have, I don't, this through you stuff. You know, anybody that's seen me chair a meeting, I have no time of day for that. So just say what you need to say.
And it was determined that policy didn't apply just because of the nature of our organization. We're not being given special privileges. We're not in the business of buying property, flipping them and making money on that. In fact, we're going to lose money on this. We just simply don't want to carry a house.
Okay, no, I was curious with respect to that, whether or not that did or did not apply to the Bruce Trail Conservancy
Mike,
versus-
any comments on that, please?
And I believe that was further confirmed
Mhm.
by our consultant planner who had spoke about public bodies and the ability for the creation of this conservation land.
Thank you.
Thank you. The other question, because it was raised a few times by some of the members of the audience with regards to attracting wildlife, which obviously would happen on that type of parcels of land. And I guess my question, and I'll qualify my question, I have a farm property, which I do have livestock, and which are always subjective to predation. I've lost cattle, I've lost sheep, I've had a horse taken down by critters or wildlife that are attracted to the corridor. So, it's interesting when we look at different sides of the fence, how excited or not excited we are by attractions of whether it be wilding or, maintenance and management of lands. But I just wanted to say that not all Mono residents are excited by the attraction of all of the wildlife. So my question then turns into, is there any type of management that the Bruce Trail does to manage those wildlife, whether it be fencing, attractions or detractions from certain areas that you have?
That's right. We certainly don't repopulate areas with extra wildlife. We don't import them from somewhere. The wildlife is already there, and we just hope to create a habitat that's comfortable. But we have put up fencing. We have relocated beaver. We have done a lot of things to help our neighbors. We also operate about 800 acres of farmlands ourselves, where there's livestock on there. We don't own the cows ourselves, but we rent them out. So we're very sensitive to things like that, and we're just a phone call away. If you've got problems, please just let us know.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks, Corinne. Jerry, turn on your mic, please. Thank you.
I don't actually have any questions, but I've got lots of comments later.
Okay. Thank you. And I don't have any questions either. With that, we close the public meeting part of this, and now the committee will deliberate. Sorry, Anton, yes.
There was the matter of the condition 4 and it being not applicable to the severed lot, but to the retained lot, or the other way around, because the conservation lot is the new lot. So if there's going to be a levy applied, that is the new lot, so it should be applied to that.
Okay. Thank you for reminding us of that. So with that, Dave? Yeah, oh, another question. Yeah, thanks.
Can you explain how you lose money in a property that you're buying with a house?
Yeah.
And the forest area is severed off,
Yeah.
but you're going to lose money on the house.
Right. So when we acquire a property with a house, it's over $2 million. The land transfer taxes are on the full sale. We've also got the severance. We've also got management costs while we go through the severance. So vacant house insurance is over $1,000 a month. We also have to have somebody visit the house on a regular basis in order to have that insurance. We have to pay property taxes. We have to pay the heating bills. We have to keep the light, you have to keep all of that
Depending
going.
on how long you're hanging on to it, but for all the time you do have it,
Exactly.
yes.
We've also got legal fees on the purchase, and we've got legal fees on the sale, plus 5% commission on a, real estate agent.
Just like taxpayers help.
Exactly. And you can see how this is just mounting up, and we actually do not recoup. We sell the property on less land. So there's a loss there, which is not to us, of course, but I mean, it's, this is what we do. But there's a financial loss to that because it has to be accounted for.
So can you give me an example on the last property that was sold, what your purchase price was and what the property was sold at?
Right. It's
And
public
what was it?
information, so you
I'm
can
just asking.
put the two together. And I honestly don't remember all the details, but happy to give them to you tomorrow. You'll see for yourself.
I just wanted to know,
Yeah.
has everyone been a loss?
Not every single one. When we're in an when we buy low and then the market starts swinging up, then we've done okay. But the buy, sever, sell concept is not a great model for us. It really isn't. We crunch the numbers, and especially in a market like this, very, very volatile, very unpredictable. We end up by, eating
Then
loss.
again, why wouldn't you buy land that doesn't have houses on it?
We
will
do.
tie the
That is
trail
our,
in?
yeah, that's our preference. We would prefer to buy partial taking for the corridor. We would prefer to buy vacant land, but that's not always possible. Sometimes we are just in a situation where we have to just get the property because it's available. As soon as it's sold, then we have to re-engage with a new landowner and start the relationship all over again. And for those important properties that take the trail off the road, complete the corridor in a certain area, it's very, very important that we jump on that opportunity when we have
So
it.
why in this property has it taken a year to put it to market?
It hasn't taken us a full year. We bought it at the end of last year, but it's this process. It's been a very convoluted, long process. It shouldn't. A conservation severance typically takes about 3 months, but because of staffing issues and concerns from the public and what have you, this particular process has taken long. Typically, it takes about 3 months.
Very good. Thank you.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, turn your mic on, please, Jerry.
So one question that I do have, under your overview map, it does not show the main part of your trail going up through this particular property, or even close to it, really. So why would you entertain buying that to put the trail there?
It's part of the optimum route. The optimum route was planned about 30 years ago, and we're just acquiring land along that optimum route. The trail's not there currently, but it's part of our optimum corridor.
So what does optimum route entail?
It means that when we are completed, we can have the option to put the trail in through there.
Okay. So what you're saying, you're buying land to put it sort of wherever you want.
No, it always follows the optimum route. And this property is on the optimum route.
Okay, because it certainly doesn't show that on the map.
No, main trail it doesn't go there right now.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Committee members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Anton. Seeing none. So with that, we're going to close the public meeting now. And this is time for committee discussion. Eric, you want to start, please?
I agree with, right from the start, one of the comments that Ms. Diamond made is that the Planning Act and the bylaw are very convoluted. The committee has authority under the Planning Act to assess a parkland levy or to waive a parkland levy or partially assess a parkland levy. In Mono, that existed for a few years, and then they brought in a bylaw that really restricted the discretion of the committee. That bylaw itself was amended just this year to return some authority and discretion to the committee. The committee considered that in a meeting earlier this year. I'm not going to repeat every position that I took at that hearing, but I haven't changed my view. I don't think that it is in the public interest to assess a levy on the Bruce Trail for a parkland levy when in fact Bruce Trail provides to the town a parkland well in excess of the value of any 5% levy. I've been through that. The committee is charged under the current bylaw with determining what is in the public interest. The committee, I think, fairly considered that, and each member of this committee has the right to bring their own perspective to it. And the committee divided very much like the community divided. I mean, there were some of us who felt they were wrong, but that was I think, a fair, honest exercise of the discretion of this committee, who considered the best interests of the public. I want to add, though, a couple of different things today, one of which is the confirmation that Mike provided earlier that I did not understand at the last hearing, and that is that the proceeds of this levy are segregated and can only be used for public parks and recreation. We have now assessed $113,000 from the Bruce Trail for that purpose. This committee has that discretion now to partially assess that levy. We can look at that as saying that is a sufficient exercise of our responsibility to ensure that public interest. And that is a discretion that is given to this committee through that bylaw. But there's another aspect to it that really comes from the lawyer's letter. I want to say three things about the lawyer's letter that we did receive earlier this afternoon. First of all, I do think it was very unhelpful to threaten an appeal. Our committee, I know them. I think we're all going to exercise our duty and to do what we think is right. And threatening an appeal is just simply unhelpful. But having said that, there is and actually the letter is very good. It's a very good letter. It's very good legal analysis. I disagree with some parts of it, but one of the points that's raised is a reference to the Reynolds decision of what then was the Ontario Municipal Board. And the point that the Reynolds decision, which is still followed and is a very current decision, even though it was from 2012, it stands for that principle today that all conditions that this committee imposes under this severance right have to be reasonable. And when we now look at this proposed condition to assess the levy, especially in light of the fact that we have already recovered the $113,000, can we say that it's reasonable to assess a further parkland recreation dedicated fee in light of A, that what we've collected, and B, the fact that Bruce Trail provides this recreational opportunity and natural resource to the community? So I think that's another reason, in addition to all the ones that I had advanced at the first hearing, why we should not be charging the parkland levy to Bruce Trail. They have paid a significant amount already on top of providing that service. So it will be my position that we introduce a resolution to approve the severance without that condition.
Very good. Thank you. Dave, please.
Well, just to be clear again, parkland levy fees that are brought in as a revenue to Mono can only be used for our own parks, our playgrounds for children, the stuff that all of the community can use, not just people that love hiking or people that are retired and can afford the time to go do that. So other than that, everybody's taxes are paying for those playgrounds, school grounds, and parklands out of our normal revenue. All of that has been cut back as everyone well knows, and among other very important things. So it's not a point that the parkland revenue is helping Mono's coffers to do with road buildings and security, policing, and anything else. It's for all the kids and the parklands that we have to maintain because we're not a multi-corporation. In fact, I think Bruce Trails Conservancy has higher revenue than Mono does, period. So I am putting forth the motion, which we can vote on, that we accept Deborah's report as is, as it stands. As far as change number 2, I don't have any issues with that. As far as the removal of recommendation 4, I disagree.
Okay, thank you. I want to hear from the other members. We have one recommendation to remove it, one to not remove it. Corinne, please.
First, I apologize. I obviously didn't take enough decongestant. My allergies are going crazy, so sorry for that. I would piggyback on some of the thoughts that Dave Carver has shared in terms of whilst I feel the Bruce Trail Conservancy is something that is essential, and I find that bringing children to the parklands to roam the parks, etc., is fantastic. However, some of the statements with respect to no taxation on Mono's infrastructure to be incorrect in terms of the extra bylaw officers that we've hired in our township, the signage that we've continued to put up for the parking, the attractants of the people, the cleanup, the heavy usage on the roads, etc., are things that all need to also be considered when we look at attracting people based on the gentleman's one story. I agree, different parts of the world, some of these trails offer chalets and hotels and restaurants and things that lend and add payment to parkland and its local environment. Obviously, Mono does not have that, and there is no luxury really of, or that I have heard, that the attractants of Bruce Trail members or people coming to the trail really lend any true economic growth to the community. I would also, state that and agree with Elaine in terms of this is a corporation. As the gentleman stated earlier, they have 19 properties, 721 acres, and a lot of these properties have already had the luxury of no, parkland levy, etc., in a prior certain term to myself, for sure. But when the last 2 had come in, I know the bylaws and the information is quite clear in terms of how we as members independently reviewed that information. I certainly, as mentioned earlier, am not overly excited about some of the attractants that parkland brings, whether it be weeds to my crops, whether it be foreign species of plants, bugs, and quite frankly, critters that predate on my livestock and my barn and, ruin my fences and the like. So when we look at reasonableness and public interest, I speak for myself when I say that I am not supportive of waiving the condition with respect to the parkland levy. And I would certainly take it offline. I don't know what the cost differential would be to pay the parkland levy at 5% of the created lot, residential lot, versus what that levy cost would be on the retained lot. So I would look to you, Anton, I guess, also to what that valuation difference would be.
Thank you.
We would provide a formal appraisal, but the conservation lot is a vacant lot. It's the new lot.
Right.
Of course, it has less value. The house lot has more value. So that's really just the difference. But we would provide a formal appraisal for that, which is what we've done in the past.
Perfect. And the last, I guess, point that I would certainly just make is I know that quite a bit of when we talk about management of the trail, and I think this is also fabulous, that so much fundraising is done by volunteers and very clear people who absolutely love the trail, love to be on the trail, which just shows the dedication and the support that the organization has. So I certainly commend your volunteers and your people for all of the work that they do for the Bruce Trail.
Very good. Okay. Thank you, Corinne. Jerry, please.
I agree with Corinne. And believe me, I think the Bruce Trail is a good organization. I think a lot of people really love the Bruce Trail, and rightfully so. I guess everybody was saying how long they were here. I've been here 77 years. Lucky to be here that long. But anyway, from an agriculture point of view, our country's gross domestic product is going down all the time. That's a pure fact of organizations overlapping in governments, and that whether that's Niagara Escarpment, Oak Ridges Moraine, Bruce Trail, that's all people that we have to deal with in business every day. And that's a problem. I guess the other problem that I have is I'm not sure how much it's a corridor. Yes, it's a corridor that you want to have with your for your trail, but 14% of Canadian people are using the food bank, and I'm not sure how much of that corridor should be maybe producing food and stuff. I don't think we get enough for what we produce now anyway. But anyway, obviously I'm a farmer, but that's things I think we've got to take a look at, and especially in Mono. Like Mono is not it's not a farming community particularly anymore, but it's diversified. It's got these lots that you can go and get and buy and put a trail on at this point in time. But I think we end up, people probably don't realize what they've got in the Bruce Trail either. But just right beside me, there was 200 acres that you bought. We're severing the house on the last time. And that was all farmed 60 years ago. And now it's up in trees and whatever. And I can take you to at least 500 acres that I have farmed in the last 25 years that conservation authorities or whoever think that they should put it in trees. And don't get me wrong, I think trees are great, and there's a place for trees and there's a place for everything else. But we talk about the management of it. Have you ever called the bylaw enforcement and tried to get a weed inspector to come and do weeds on a noxious weed? It doesn't happen. And my friends over here, they can attest to that because I phoned them. It just doesn't happen. So the management is not there.
You can call us. We'll help you with hogweed.
Anyway, from that point of view, I don't see how we can. We're certainly. I think we're giving to Niagara Escarpment. I think we're giving to Oak Ridges Moraine. I can go on and on and on. That we're giving credit to the conservation authorities. Yes, we're giving to the conservation authorities, left, right, and center. And they come for their levy every year, and so all you're doing is adding on to another layer of those levies that the ratepayers are paying. I guess the other comment that I have is, and I think I made that at the meeting in June, I truly think that the council, their elected officials, I think they've advocated on their job. They wanted to dump that down on us, and quite frankly, I don't think it's a committee's decision. You can make whatever decision you want to make from from that point of view, but I truly think that it's an elected official's budgetary job to do that. So.
But we have that now, so we're going to deal
Well,
with
I'm
it.
not saying we should keep it, Bob.
No,
just
I
because we have
agree.
it.
I've talked to the mayor
That's-
about that.
That's
so
why I'm
I
making,
agree
the-
with you.
that's why I'm making the comment.
Yeah.
I really think that the elected officials abdicated on
Yeah.
their job when they dumped that back down to us. Because it's a big item. It's obviously a ratepayers item from the people that are here. And it's certainly an item for Bruce Trail. There's just no question about that. Okay, so that's my comments.
Thank you, Jerry. My comments last. I am empathetic about the taxes that we pay. For gosh sakes, next month I get to make my final tax payment. And this year I'm paying $8,500 on my 3/4 of an acre in Island Lake Estates. It's a lot of money for what we get. That aside, my first inclination was to support Eric to make a motion to remove that clause number 4. But sensing the committee here, I am prepared to move a motion, your request to have the levy applied only to the conservation part of it. I'm happy to put that motion on the floor right now, that however, smarter people will word that better than I can, but I would move a motion that the recommendation 4 be amended to appraised value of the retained lot. Fred, please. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure you can do that. The bylaw is written such that it will be charged on the severed portion. Now, I think the committee could reduce the amount that it's looking to charge and have an equivalent effect of what you're suggesting. But I don't see where the bylaw gives the committee the permission to charge on the retained versus the severed.
Okay,
So you could have
not
the
a
same
lawyer.
effect by
Okay.
charging a lower amount.
So what would the recommendation be? We're not talking 5% now. Should we reduce it to 2?
Well, that's a very good question for
All
the
right.
committee to debate.
I don't know the dollar value. But I support, sure support reducing it. So I don't know the numbers. We don't have those numbers here now. So
Mr. Chair, I think that goes back to my comment.
yeah, you're
I
right.
really think it's a council's elected officials' duties.
Jerry, I agree with you 100% about that, but we're not going to resolve that one tonight. I have talked with the mayor about it, and there's more work to be done there, but we're not going to solve that one tonight. So we have to make a decision here tonight. Fred?
I'm not sure you have to make a decision. Certainly one is probably being sought after. But if the committee is of a position where they adamantly would like to be able to examine those numbers, then perhaps the committee can defer if they wish in order to acquire those numbers and use that to come up with a percent or a dollar amount. Remember, you don't have to charge a percent. You can charge a flat rate based on the severed port.
Okay, thank you. Dave?
Can I ask you a question? What does the 5% work out to? I'm sure you know.
Off the top of my head, I think we had an appraisal done for the severed portion and it was about $85,000.
The house portion?
Mm-hmm.
Correct. So based on the value of that land versus your total purchase price,
I'd have to go home and do the calculations.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
I would recommend that deferral.
Okay.
Yeah, so that we can crunch those numbers.
so the dollar value we're talking is 85. Thank you.
Okay, but we need those numbers. Eric, you have a?
I mean, again, my preference would be to waive that condition. But if the committee is prepared to reduce it, then I agree that we should defer. But unless there's a consensus here that we can come to an agreement of less than 5%, then let's defer. But if the position of the three is that you want the 5%, then let's just get it done and move on.
If I move a motion to defer, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Jerry Reed. And
All right, well, it's motion to adjourn. We adjourn this hearing for a month.
okay, is
All right.
that the way we say it? I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna, I will move then, we adjourn the hearing today to the next meeting in, whatever the next month is,
October.
Does everybody have any conflicts? I'm likely to be able to attend in October?
You can't adjourn.
No, you can,
Okay.
you can only adjourn it.
Only adjourn.
You only adjourn it. That's what the act says.
Okay, so
He's the lawyer.
yeah. Can you guess who the lawyer on the committee is? Eric, thank you. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm actually being very respectful because I don't know that. So your motion to
I just want to follow up. I mean, so what the plan then is that you'll provide us before the next meeting with those values of the severed lot, which is what right now. No, the severed lot, because the retained lot is the vacant property.
According to your bylaw, we can't put the 5% on the retained land. It has to be on the severed lot, which is the house lot. So that's a moot point. My point of suggesting deferral was so that we can work out some numbers. It might be a number that's not 5%. As Fred indicated, you have the ability to just have a flat rate. You could just say it's $10,000.
Yeah, the bylaw allows us, as does the Planning Act, allows us to do anything between 0 and 5%.
Right. So it would give us that time just to percolate on that because that's a new idea.
are we committee? Are we in agreement to do what we've just been talking about? Because if so, then we need to have the words, the motion.
Right. I'll bring then the motion.
Fred, sorry.
So, Ms. Diamond, you were going to endeavor, though, to provide an assessed value of the retained lot. Then the committee would be able to do a calculation that would be similar if they charged 5% on the value of the retained. They could do the arithmetic to come to an equivalent value on the severed. Is that something that you'd be able to provide, an estimate of the value of the retained lot?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that's a good plan. Does the committee agree that's a good plan?
Well, I'll introduce the motion.
Okay.
I move that we adjourn this hearing to the meeting of next month in October for the purpose of the Bruce Trail Conservancy providing us with the value or an appraised or estimated value of the retained lot.
Is that correct? Is that's the motion?
That's the motion.
Anybody other than me want to second that? Jerry, you seconded. Seconded by Jerry Reed. Any objections? Seeing none, then that motion is approved. Okay. Thank you, everybody who came and spoke to this. We'll see you next month. Fred, have we got that written down the way it's supposed to be?
Yeah, I'm completely satisfied with the procedures.
Okay, thank you. Okay. we'll take just a short break. I apologize to our second applicant. Okay, Corinne, are you, Simi, I don't know if you can pause the feed or whatever, but we're going to take a 5-minute break here. Good night, ladies. Thanks for coming out. Okay, as soon as Jerry gets back with her.
We got food in the food.
Okay. There we go. Simi, I'll let you know when, here comes Jerry. We can restart here. Did you get some drugs there? Ooh,
I'm hoping that we're not recording
We're still on break.
We are all back. Okay, Simi, if you had stopped the recording, you can start it up again, please. We're all recorded. Okay, very good. Well, yeah, edit that last bit out. Okay, everybody, let's reconvene here. Thank you. First off, let me apologize. And that went longer than I expected it to, and longer than on over 25 years on this committee that I've seen us dealing with an issue. So I apologize to you for that. But let's get going here. Second application here, I'm going to read all of this for the record. That minor variance application for a reduced interior side yard setback for a garage and sunroom, 713164, first line EHS Mono, A04-24. Applicant is seeking relief for a minor variance from section 22E of the Town of Mono zoning bylaw 78-1 as amended, which requires interior side yard setback for garages in rural A zone of 4.58 meters, 15 feet minimum, and 9.15 meters, 31.01 feet for all other buildings or structures. The applicant is seeking to permit a 2-meter, 6.56 feet interior side yard setback for the garage portion of the addition, and 5.19 meters, which is 17.02 feet, interior side yard setback for the sunroom portion of the addition. That's the introduction here. Let me get back to my list here. Deborah, we have your report regarding this application. Do you have anything else to add to it, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, nothing further to add.
Deborah, sorry, we're having trouble hearing you.
Okay, I don't know if that's going to help. Nothing further to add.
Very good. Thank you, Deborah. Moving along. So, presentation from the applicant, Matthew. We welcome back. And that, so why don't you talk to the change, and that floor is yours.
Will do. Good evening, committee members. My name is Matthew Rebo, Perspective Views at 5359 Timberlea Boulevard, Mississauga. I'm the agent representing the owners of 713164 First Line EHS. So in addition to the comments brought forth in our previous hearing presentation, I'd like to take this opportunity to speak directly to some of the concerns mentioned by the committee members at the previous hearing in hopes to gain support of committee members tonight. We'll start with, does the variance meet the requirements of the Planning Act? Section 451 of the Planning Act governs minor variances and the powers of committee to grant minor variances. Key to the committee's assessment of minor variance is whether it meets the 4 tests. Any discussion of a minor variance in relation to the Planning Act should always go back to whether committee agrees it meets the 4 tests. The planning opinion should consistently point towards our assessment that the proposal meets the 4 tests and the requirements of the Planning Act. This was supported through the planning recommendation. Section 44 of the Planning Act sets out the requirements for public notices, the posting of the notice sign, the ability to impose conditions, etc. All Planning Act requirements are met through the process of this application, and the question of whether the variance meets the requirements of the Planning Act is not up for debate in my opinion. It does, and in due process was followed. Based on the updated planning report and the modifications made to the plan to increase the side yard setback to 2 meters for the garage, My opinion is that it meets the 4 tests and that all requirements under the Planning Act. Is the variance minor in nature? The requested variance and the revised plans increase the side yard setback variance from 1.2 to 2.0 meters. This is seen as a significant improvement to the existing plans, while still allowing for functional garage space and is needed by the homeowner for personal reasons. The additional space will also allow for any potential improvements to the retaining wall, site access to the rear yard, and possibilities to add landscaping, example, cedar hedge. This meets the committee halfway and achieves the objectives set out by the town's official plan and zoning bylaw and should be approved. To not approve the variance is quite frankly unfair to the property owner and against the planning recommendation, which of course everybody knows could be challenged at the Ontario Land Tribunal. Reviewing the proposal purely from a statistical viewpoint is an injustice to the application before you. The demonstration of whether something is minor in nature is not made on the basis of whether it fits within statistical threshold. Instead, it is rooted in whether the deviation is minor in relative terms based on the property characteristics built from the structure and its impacts to adjacent properties. The statistical deviation plays a role but cannot be the basis of the decision being made. The best argument, in my opinion, is that the garage addition is not habitable space, and the neighboring property to the north also contains a garage on its south line. The discussion should lend itself towards 2 garages that are not habitable, and in fact very common for rural estate properties such as this one. My secondary argument is that there is currently an asphalt driveway and retaining wall that is located adjacent to the property to the north. This will bring vehicles and items currently stored outdoors inside and out of public view. This should be viewed as an improvement to the existing condition. Lastly, the official plan policy seeks to ensure the growth is not disorderly and that it fits within the existing character of the area. There is no evidence here that suggests this is disorderly growth. It is not sporadic development pattern, but rather a simple garage addition to the existing property, which will improve the aesthetics of the property and allow the homeowner to expand the property based on family needs. I didn't put it in my notes, but we did, in the revised plans, we did highlight that if an alternative design would be that we comply with the bylaws and bring the addition forward, not requiring committee's approval, which we believe would be a negative impact to the streetscape. And so we do believe that our proposed addition is appropriate. Is the variance desirable for the appropriate for the development of the land? This is a key test for the committee to consider, and it is without a doubt desirable for the appropriate development of the land. There are no anticipated negative impacts to the adjacent dwellings in the area. The proposal does not represent an overdevelopment of the lot and meets almost all the required zoning requirements. The addition will create an improved overall aesthetic, curb appeal, and greatly improve the current front yard condition. It's very difficult to suggest that the proposal is not desirable or appropriate, or is not appropriate. It is. It is a garage and a sunroom addition, which fits within the character of the neighborhood and consider the site-specific considerations needed to make the proposal work, including the existing floor plan, setbacks, driveway orientation, and architectural style, which will match the existing dwelling. Concern over precedent setting for reduced setbacks on rural estate lots. Every minor variance proposal should be evaluated based on its own individual planning merits associated with the site, context, and the time a submission is made. And in the in-effort official plan and zoning bylaw, the planning report recommends that committee approve the requested variances. The committee has the authority to approve or deny minor variance applications that they feel do not meet the 4 tests, regardless of the potential of setting a precedent for the neighborhood. It has been demonstrated by the planning report that this proposal meets the 4 tests. It is important to note that the concerns around the precedent setting in the neighborhood only pertains to 7 houses located along First Line. There are only 7 properties zoned agricultural in this section of the town. The subdivision to the south contains a suburban residential zoning designation, which is more flexible in terms of setbacks. Based on the location aspects of these properties, there's a very little concern for precedent setting. It is difficult to argue that the garage addition is precedent setting or that the garage addition is not consistent with the surrounding neighborhood, its streetscape, and its large estate lot character. All of the attributes that contribute towards neighborhood character are maintained in this proposal. The modifications made to increase the setback to 2 meters are also sympathetic to the committee's concerns despite having a positive planning report. Not consistent with the existing neighborhood. It is difficult to state that the proposal is not consistent with the existing neighborhood, and one would argue that this could easily be challenged at the OLT. There are only 7 properties with agricultural zoning designation, and the subdivision to the south has different suburban residential zoning designation. The proposal is consistent with the surrounding subdivision to the south and not significant deviation from the existing 7. Did I just? No, I did not. 7 rural agricultural estate properties along First Line. Concern over neighbors' ability to expand dwelling in the future. With the revised plans now providing setback of 2.0 meters for the garage, should the adjacent owner wish to construct an addition to their house with a similar side yard setback. And I do want to point out too, the shape of the neighboring lot is on a 45-degree compared to ours. So that is something to consider regarding separation of the structures. This would then result in a setback of approximately 4 meters. In my opinion, this would not be out of character with the neighborhood, nor would it be an undesirable from a development perspective. It is consistent with the characteristics of a rural estate lot. It is also important to note that the floor plan, driveway orientation, and building footprint of the neighboring property to the north is very different from the property in question. The driveway is situated towards the northern end of the property with a triple car garage on both the south and north building walls. This provides a completely different range of building opportunities, whether it be a garage or interior space addition. There are options to extend this property in many different orientations. With the subject property before you, based on the location of the existing driveway and the garage, there are significant limitations on where you can actually construct a garage, which is limited to where the driveway is located. Based on these attributes, the proposal must be reviewed in the context of the variance being requested today. The site-specific constraints that limit the building envelope and how the proposal meets the 4 tests. A decision cannot be made based on the potential redevelopment plans of a neighboring property, which are unknown at this time. Where different opportunities and constraints exist, a future application for the neighboring property to the north must be decided on its own individual planning merits, which is out of our control. Only 2 more points. Concern over impacts to property values. The Planning Act is absent on any mention of impact to adjacent property values. This is not a component of the 4 tests, and therefore should be outside the scope of decision-making for the Committee of Adjustments. However, based on the proposal, there is no evidence that the garage adjacent would negatively impact property values. It is quite the opposite. The additional interior square footage, sunroom addition, and garage addition is only likely to result in increased property values and betterment of the existing property. Concerns over grading, drainage, and foundation. The existing retaining wall is likely required to be constructed once the foundation is excavated and poured as part of the building permit application. There are technical requirements that must be met to provide assurances that there are no adverse impacts to the grading and drainage. As stated in the planning report on behalf of the town of Mono, a condition of approval requires the submission to the town's engineer of a grading plan prepared by a professional engineer or Ontario land surveyor and any other reports and plans as deemed necessary in the sole opinion of the town's engineer, and to obtain the town's engineer approval on the required documentation prior to the issuance of a building permit. The owner, which is here tonight, mind you, is accepting the condition put forward by the committee. So thank you for your patience, and I welcome any questions you may have. I just want to finish off by stating we obviously think that this meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Matthew. No questions from the gallery, questions, comments. So now questions from the committee members, the applicant. Let's carry on with the way we've done it with the last one. Eric, please.
Thank you, Matthew. I'm not going to repeat what I went through the last attendance, but it seems to be that there's 2 things that we have to deal with, and the one is with the the purpose of the bylaw, and the language in Ms. Alexander's report is that part of the purpose of the bylaw is to maintain the character of the streetscape and the overall neighborhood. And that was the concern that I expressed last time. But the second issue is whether or not it is minor. And the current configuration is still just under 44% of the required setback. So in the normal use of the term minor, it's not minor. But of course, that's not the test. I mean, the test is that we have to look for other things, and minor has to be understood in that. What I understand from your submission and Miss Alexander's report is that there's really two things. You look to the subdivision to the south and say, well, you know, look how close they are there. And the second thing, and this is Miss Alexander makes it in her report, is because it's a garage facing a garage, that is a factor. And I think both of those are factors, but the committee here, our job is to look at the whole range of factors. My only question is, are there any other factors that we need to look at other than those two when we have to make the determination of whether it qualifies as minor?
Of course. Again, I brought up statistically, that can't be the sole basis. You brought up another point, proximity to neighboring or orientation or use, views, etc. I think when it comes to being minor or not, the best way to argue that would be whether or not it negatively or how great of an impact it has on the neighboring properties. And so I would say for that being another factor, it has absolutely zero, in my opinion, for these wide lots, the amount of room and space between the buildings. It certainly is minor.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
On that point, no.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Very good. Thank you, Eric. Dave, please.
So the only way to hit compliance would be basically to force the garage closer to the street.
Significantly closer.
So the weird thing is the house was basically originally planned and designed to be dead center in the lot. Tons of space on the left, tons of space on the right, and all the other houses are the same way.
Possibly.
Pretty much are from the street side, at least what I've been able to see. So 2 meters, basically you're able to get everything in your design to fit and still have the drive going back. And you still have room for watershed and straightening out the retaining wall.
Certainly.
And all that stuff. Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Very good. Thank you. Corinne, please.
I have no questions.
Thank you. Jerry. Mike, please.
I don't really have any questions either. I wasn't at that last meeting, Bob, but anyway, so I did look at the situation today, though. I have some idea of it.
Okay. That's it?
Yep.
Thank you. And I have no questions either. So with that, we're going to close the public meeting and the committee is going to discuss this. So Eric, you want to start again, please?
My comments are really the same as last meeting. The change in the setback still doesn't get you into the normal sense of minor. It's still, it's still a very large. I mean, it seems that what you want is a bylaw amendment, and we're not in the business of bylaw amendment. Here we give a minor variance, and when I look at the character of the neighborhood, which is actually very well illustrated by the aerial view in this letter dated September 11th. I mean, if you look at the neighborhood to the south that's shown on the bottom of that photo, they're much closer together. That's the streetscape. But when you look at the row of houses that are in the neighborhood that are zoned and built as widely spaced, large homes on large lots, that is the character, that is the streetscape. That's the purpose of the bylaw, was to preserve that streetscape. This, in my opinion, is not a minor amendment. It is a request for a bylaw change. And so I can't support the request.
Okay. Thank you. Dave, please. No, this is comments and.
Well, I agree with what Eric said, the general look of the neighborhood. These are estate lots. It's not a subdivision. Subdivisions go down further south. They're scary. They're like 4 feet apart. But when you've got, I don't know, is this 1.5 acres too?
I think it's 1 acre, isn't it? Yeah, they're all those.
They're big lots.
7 there. They're 1 acre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're big lots. If it wasn't for the factor that it's garage to garage, I wouldn't support it. I can see how the neighboring property has garages on both sides. He could turn that into living space, but at worst case, he's going to be looking at a garage. So I'm still undecided.
Okay. Thank you. Corinne, please.
I wanted to actually, I take it you're the owner of the property. I wanted to, first of all, just thank you for taking the time to write the letter. And in addition, listening to the comments that the committee made in the last go round. I, quite frankly, when I look at the deviation from the, I think it's 1.2 to the 2 meters, I take all of your comments and the intent, but quite frankly, I would support that. And I would say thank you for thinking about the neighborhood, the neighboring properties, et cetera. No one was trying to imply that, you're looking to build something to sever, to run. It was just the intent that if the neighbor had to do something, then, there's an impedance to allow others to be able to do anything on their property. So from me, I actually say thank you for listening and amending your plans.
I just want to say I wasn't here last meeting, and so I took the recommendations when I saw the video. The intention of this is not solely to do build a garage and then sell the house. Like I said in my letter, we've been here since 2015. We're growing roots. I have 3 young children, plus my in-laws who have accessibility issues. So the intent is not, I would say, like a bad intention. It's good. I have a growing family. We need more space. We need more functionality. We love the town. We love the community. And I'm investing, we'll hopefully be here as long as you guys are going to be there, right? So my words to you guys is even with the form of the neighborhood and how the house sits, it is a neighborhood that is a part of the southern neighborhood. So you just kind of have to view it as down the street. Even though it's smaller lots, they have smaller offsets. So I'm a larger lot. I'm trying to establish something that I want to retain in the community and stay within the community. And I'm adding value to my house, which I think, I don't know how to get my feelings across. I put it pretty well in the letter, but there's no bad intent with this. I'm just trying to create a great space for my in-laws so that when there is inclement weather, they don't slip and fall on the driveway. He has already broken his hip. He's here today. And more functionality for my family. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry, please, turn your mic on, please.
No, I don't have
Thank
any
you.
questions, Bob.
No, it's not questions. This is comments and discussion time.
Well, I looked at it today, and it's a big lot, that's for sure. And it probably could work, but I agree with Eric. Is it minor or not? It's getting to the stage where it's really not. There's no question about that, I think. But that's all I have, Bob.
Okay. Thank you. You know, your letter and, you know, the description of the 116.8 meters to the Island Lake Estates and that, I think Eric mentioned it. It really makes the case that this should have been a zoning bylaw amendment. You know, I think everybody knows, I live on Blue Heron Drive. I'm on 3/4 of an acre and that, so the fact that these 7 homes are rural zoning or whatever, it should have been a zoning bylaw amendment, that's for sure. I appreciate that you've made some concession there. I'm guessing if you'd started with that, then we probably wouldn't be sitting here tonight, so.
Well, again, I apologize for not being here. It was just, I was away on vacation and then the communication between us, it was not like really clear. So then he just went on what I was kind of saying and I didn't really fully grasp the gravity of the situation. So anyways, we deferred, which now we regrouped and kind of made some adjustments and hopefully it's to your liking and then I can please you guys, we can move on.
I mean, Kevin, to be blunt, what you've got there on the north side of your property, frankly, it's a mess. All
Well,
those vehicles and the
Well,
like.
hold on a second. What vehicles are you talking about? Because are we talking about the same property? Because technically during the course of the day, there's 2 vehicles on the outside and that's
Look,
it.
I don't want to get into an argument about this. Every time I've driven past, there's several vehicles there.
Several vehicles where, because I don't want to get into an argument, but there's no law that says I can't have as many vehicles, fully insured vehicles on my driveway.
Kind of going the wrong direction
Well,
here.
we are because you're taking it a little bit personal because
No, I'm not.
it doesn't matter how many vehicles. There's no law or bylaw that says how many vehicles I can have in my driveway. My neighbor has more vehicles than me. So you may be confused with my law and somebody else's. So mine, I keep it tidy, I keep it great. I try to do the best I can. I'm trying to improve my lot, increase my garage, and actually park some of my vehicles inside and have accessibility for my elderly father-in-law.
You interrupted me before I was going to say to build this garage and keep those vehicles inside would actually be beneficial, is
100%.
what I was going to say.
I know, but
That's
I'm
what, no,
just taking your
don't.
comments from the the
Kevin,
previous
don't.
one.
I'm going to stop. I'm going to
Okay,
stop talking.
I apologize if I'm trying to offend. I'm not trying to offend you. I know from last one what you said, and it's my house. It's like your house.
Yeah.
If someone says something about your house and you try to keep it in good order, you take a little offense to that. You know what I mean? So like when you were trying to like kind of talk to like, oh, there's so many vehicles, but is there really?
I'm not going to argue this. I'm not going to argue this. And that, so frankly, I mean, there's some movement there. The last meeting, we were told in definitive terms that there was no possibility for movement. Now,
Again, I apologize for that. My communication between us was a little broken, so.
I'm going to, I'm going to stop there. Frankly, I don't know either. So I'm going to turn it over to the committee. What's the mood of the committee, to approve or?
Well, we have one definitive one yes and one definitive no. So we got to get Jerry, as I understand.
Oh, so, Mike, sorry.
Sorry, committee, if I may, I'd like to draw back the committee's attention to the town planner's report that has not identified this as a zoning bylaw amendment requirement, and your consultant planner has deemed this a suitable application. So prior to your votes, I just wanted to note out the zoning bylaw amendment has not been recommended by a consultant planner.
No, I do understand that. Thank you for, pointing that out, but.
So then I'll bring a motion to accept and approve this application.
Okay, and seconded by Dave Carbert. All in favor? Fred?
Okay. As was mentioned at a previous meeting, I think it behooves the committee to actually detail the exact motion as opposed to something fairly generic and then asking the motion to be crafted outside of the public venue. So the committee was provided with a recommended, you don't, of course, have to move that, but I think you need to move a motion that provides all the detail of what exactly the decision is being made here. And
Well,
that's my
Fred,
recommendation.
you're going to have to help me because I'm not
Okay.
quite understanding what you're saying. Do you want to write down
Mailed
something?
to the committee were recommended motions based on the planning reports. If that's the motion that the committee is looking to make, then I'd recommend, and if you'd like, I can read that out for you as what a recommended motion would be. And it's a full detailed motion giving all the particulars of what is being voted on so that that is in the public realm.
Well,
That's my recommendation, and I can read that out if you wish.
I think we need that because we've got one member who will move that, one who will second it, and Jerry is approving it. And my question is, why is Dave Carbert's mic flashing green?
Yeah, we got too many on. Okay. Okay. So,
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
if you'd
please.
like, I'll read
Yes, please.
the motion that was prepared based on the planning report. And if that is moved and seconded, then you can, of course, carry on with the vote.
Thank you.
Okay. So the motion is that minor variance application A04/24 by Matthew Ribbo on behalf of Kevin Gabato, owner of Lot 64, Plan 7M27, Part 4 Plan 7R5293, known municipally as 713164 First Line EHS, to reduce the minimum interior yard setback for a proposed sunroom and garage addition to an existing single detached dwelling is approved subject to the following conditions. 1, payment in full of any outstanding municipal fees, taxes, and charges prior to a building permit application to the County of Dufferin Building Services Department. Number 2, that the variances pertain only to the request as submitted with this application. And 3, submission to the town's engineers, R.J. Burnside, of a grading plan prepared by a professional engineer or Ontario Land Survey, and any other reports and plans as deemed necessary in the sole opinion of the town's engineer, and to obtain the town engineer's approval of the required documents prior to issuance of a building permit.
I would move that.
Okay.
I would second that.
Moved by Corinne Pollard, seconded by Dave Carbert. All in favor? And that passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, committee.
You're welcome. Okay. Thank you. Have a good night. Thanks again for your patience.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
And I'm sorry for the young guy here who said he's 77. I've been here for 78, so I beat you by one.
Good for you.
Excellent. Thank you. Enjoy. Okay. Listen, I added something to the agenda. This meeting has gone on far too long. I'd like to move that off to the next meeting.
With a motion?
I moved that whatever it was that I asked for there, that we put it off till our next meeting.
So the item that was added earlier in the evening was the role of staff with respect to the Committee of Adjustment.
Yes, yeah, that's a longer discussion.
The motion is to remove that or to defer that until the next meeting, or or to an undetermined time. Your choice. You can set
Well,
a time or leave it.
We don't want to remove you guys. Fred.
Let's, I mean, we don't know what's coming up. That'll be the next point is, do we have stuff? Let's put it off to the next meeting.
Okay.
We've been here long enough and that
So-
item deserves a proper
Okay, so
discussion.
moved by the chair?
Moved by the chair, seconded by Eric, and that passes there. We
So
move
can we
that.
make sure it hits the agenda so that?
Yeah, that's what
public-
we're asking, to put it on the agenda for
So
the
the motion was to defer to the next meeting.
No, the motion is to adjourn. The Planning Act only allows three things. We can approve, we can decline, or we can adjourn. Those are the only three things we're allowed to do under the Planning Act. So we are adjourning.
With respect to an application, I completely, it doesn't matter to me if the motion is to adjourn the item, because
We're
the
adjourning
item's
the
not
item.
an application. I'm not going to quibble details.
All right, thank you.
But I would like an actual motion.
We have it. We got it.
Yeah.
You just got distracted by my fighting over the deferral, but we did actually adjourn it.
Okay.
And it's passed.
So it's put down as an adjournment, and we'll bring it back to the next meeting. I tell you, we need a Bay Street lawyer here.
We have one, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah. Mike, you don't look amused here. It's time to go home and have a beer. Yeah, where we're at on the agenda is unfinished business done. But no, we do have to ask, October meeting, have we got applications?
Simi will reach out to the committee in the next couple of days and let you guys know.
So you don't have a clue? We don't have a clue right now?
I'm up to speed on a lot of files, Bob, but I
Yeah.
can't tell you what's happening next October 3rd.
Okay.
Thursday of the month.
We did though put the Bruce Trail on for next meeting.
Bruce Trail,
Oh, yeah.
provided they bring in the information that the committee has requested, by all means.
Mike,
You do have that.
you know why I'm asking that, is I want the members to know, keep that date in your calendars, because tomorrow morning I'm going to send out an email thanking everybody for their great work and keeping whatever date in October that is.
Yeah, we will have a meeting because I suspect that the Bruce Trail will bring that information back.
Yeah, and we want to talk about staff, so.
I
I'm
move to
joking.
adjourn the meeting.
Yeah. Anything else? Anything else, anybody? No. Other than me, as always, thanking staff, Fred, Mike, Simi, Deborah Alexander, if you're still there, thank you. Our planning consultant, thank you. Committee members, job well done. Interesting meeting, and motion to adjourn, seconded, and Simi, you can turn this off now, please.